back to our resident analyst, that is Ken Gishinga. Well, inflation numbers have declined from 7.06% to 5.72%. And earlier on, we've talked to Kenyans and they're not still feeling the trickle down.
Right.
How is it so?
It's a good thing that the cost of living is coming down. One of the biggest challenges Kenyans talk about in every survey we do is that Nairobi is one of the most expensive places to live in. However, it was the economist Milton Friedman who said inflation is always a monetary phenomenon, which means if money is not circulating in the economy, the inflation starts coming down. If that's the reason inflation is coming down, because of constrained money supply, then that's actually something very negative. So we need to understand, is this demand-driven inflation or is it supply-side inflation? On the surface, I think it's more of a monetary constraint, meaning there's not enough sufficient money moving around. So for me, I would take it with a pinch of salt.
And inflation numbers can actually within the CBK,
Right.
they would call it the band target.
Correct.
Which is maximum it should hit 7.5%.
Correct.
Where are we as a country? Is it a good place to be in?
I think if you can always be around the the lower limit is 5%, the upper limit is about 7.5%. And if you can always be around there, then theoretically, it's a good place to be. Anytime you get to double digits inflation, then it means investors shy away from holding your assets because it's losing value way too quickly. But anytime you get to inflation, like in Europe, when it's very low, it's 1%, it means your economy is not growing sufficiently enough. So it's a healthy place, but also we have to understand how inflation is calculated. Food contains a big chunk of that. So 36% of the inflation calculation is actually based on food prices. So if it means the cost of food is actually beyond the reach of many people, then we have to really think through from a policy perspective, how do we rebalance the basket?
And put it to us in context. What does this mean for the average Kenyan living in Eastleigh that inflation has gone down? Is it something they should celebrate, or is it just an elitist thing?
The challenge with macroeconomics is it's looking at the average of so many indicators from Mombasa to Mandera to Kwale to Kiambu. So you could have in one particular area, like for example, perhaps in Kisumu now, because of the unrest, if we did an inflation study on Kisumu, I would not be surprised to find inflation maybe at 13, 14, 15%.
Correct.
Because of the supply side. But because they're taking national averages from Lamu to Kisii, then sometimes you don't get the full story. And I think that's why I've always challenged the central bank. Could we have these numbers at the county level? Could we have these numbers at city level? Because only then can Wanjiko interact with these numbers in a more meaningful way. Right now, it's more of, it's a high-level number that sort of like, yeah.
And Ken, one of the other issues that has dominated headlines this week is the resistance movement by the opposition. Today, they've unveiled the economic agenda. That is, of course, the economic boycott of various services and goods. They've mentioned Safaricom.
Right.
They've also mentioned Brookside and Bidco.
Right.
What does this mean for these brands?
So in economics, we have the term substitutes. If a product has substitutes, meaning you can get an identical same product at the same price, at the same convenience, then it's easier for customers to move away. For example, maybe Brookside milk. There's KCC milk, there's all types of milk. So they could get a big hit because it's easier for customers to move away. If you look at M-Pesa, you could argue there's Airtel money, there's Orange money, but the sheer convenience that M-Pesa brings might make it more of, there's a stickiness to it that might keep customers there. So I think it will hit brands that have immediate replicas, but the M-Pesas of this world, I think they're here to stay because of the sheer convenience. Kenyans live and breathe by M-Pesa. But the Bidcos, the cooking oils, where you have 20 brands in the market, I think it's very easy to make that, as long as the price difference is not sufficient for the customer, because we are in a very price-sensitive market, so it's unlikely that a customer will pay 100 shillings more because of sort of like a political statement, yeah.
Well, indeed, sober comments there, Ken Gishinga. And I'll be throwing off a last question later about what you read in regard to Bob Collymore sick leave. Well, moving on to our story of the day. And now, how does it feel to have your car drive you home as you just sit and enjoy the ride? The world's first true hands-free driving system for the